Have you heard of these things called dumb phones? What's up, everybody? Today I want to talk about this article I found called My Daughter is Ready for Her First Smartphone. I'm Not Ready to Give It to Her. Written by Sumathi Reddy. Yeah, I have thoughts on this because I think I've mentioned it in a previous video, but I was 19 when I got my first iPhone. Up until then, I had a dumb phone, that being a flip phone, since I was 12, and then iPod Touch when I was 14. No, I was 13 when I got my first iPod Touch. I also had various other personal electronics like a Game Boy Advance, a Nintendo DS, my 3DS that I saved up the money for and bought just to make a point. I wanted to prove that GameStop employee who laughed at me wrong. I was able to save up. I was able to get my own 3DS with my own money and 4 games, I'd like to add. I'm doing the same with the Switch too. I don't care that yeah, the price isn't great. But you know what? If I get more hours out of it than the number of dollars I spent on it, when you factor in the Massachusetts state sales tax as well, I'm at peace with that, so I bet I could get 530 plus hours out of Mario Kart World alone, which is what it's going to cost me after the Massachusetts state sales tax. 531.24 to be exact, but that's beside the point. Before I get started on the article, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe for daily videos, and without further ado, let's see why she's hesitant to give her daughter her first smartphone, which I'm just going to come out and say it. Smartphones shouldn't be in the hands of anyone under the age of 18. I'm just going to say it. Unfortunately, iPod Touches aren't really a thing anymore, but just give them a dumb phone. They can make calls and texts. That's all they need. Maybe if you want to argue the tracking capabilities, as long as the as long as your child is aware and it knows about it, then I have nothing against that. Especially if they're okay with it, like Percy from No Hard Feelings. Alright. When I was growing up, coming of age was marked by numerous things: a bar mitzvah, a girl's first period, a sweet 16 party, or a driver's license. Today, the rite of passage that marks a child's transition into adolescence comes far earlier. It comes, in my opinion, with a purchase: the first smartphone. For the past year or two, my husband and I have been in a delicate dance with our 11-year-old Priya over when she can get her first smartphone. Nearly all her friends in our Queens neighborhood already have one. Just because everyone else does it doesn't mean you should. That herd mentality is very dangerous in my opinion, but I digress. It started with one or two in 4th grade. By 5th grade, the phones were everywhere. Now in 6th grade, the ranks of the phoneless have dwindled to my daughter and 2 of her friends, whose mothers are friends of mine. We seem to be heeding a silent pact. I won't buy one if you don't. A new report from Common Sense Media found that by age 8, 1 in 4 kids already have a cell phone. A 2021 report from the same group showed a significant rise in the number of 8 to 12-year-olds with a smartphone, from 24% in 2015 to 43% in 2021. Yeah, now that I think about it, my 2 of my younger cousins, the older 2 of the 3 youngest, I remember I was surprised to see they had smartphones at 10 and 9, respectively. Oh, I guess the youngest isn't far behind now. Back to the article. Most parents justify a phone as a necessary tool for staying in touch when their kids begin venturing from home. We did this for my now 17-year-old son in 6th grade, when most of his peers seemed to be getting smartphones. As clueless parents of a kid with a great attention span, we set no controls. A rookie mistake we realized years later. Priya has been walking around our neighborhood independently for a couple of years now. I've managed this by giving my daughter a glitchy kitty watch, which she detests. We use it for calls, though we can't always hear each other over the din of the school bus. I can text her, but she can respond only by voice text or pre-programmed one-word answers such as yes or okay. Have you heard of these things called dumb phones? You can find them in literally any big box store, any convenience store, or like your Walgreens or CVS's. I don't know if those classify as convenience stores or not because they're always pharmacies, but you can get smartphones for like double digit amounts of money literally anywhere. Now, I've heard that you need like a Google account for a lot of them now. I don't know if you. I've heard that burner phones aren't really a thing anymore because of that, because they'd be linked to your Google account, so you can't just buy minutes on Nokia, use it for what you want to use it, and then snap it in half and throw it away. I don't know. I've had an iPhone for almost 9 years across one, two, three, SE1, 8, SE2, 13 Pro Max, 16 Pro Max, 5 models. I've had an iPhone, 5 different iPhones in the last almost 9 years now, so I'm not the one to ask. I can't track her every move, but frankly, I don't really need to know every time she's going to Walgreens, the local 6th grade hotspot. This restraint, I'll admit, was hard earned. I realized tracking my son had become kind of screen time addiction when Life 360, a tracking app, began showing up in my most used apps. I know she will get a phone eventually, and likely soon. She isn't waiting until high school, like some experts recommend. It isn't practical, since she will likely be taking public transportation on her own soon. I'll want to be more readily available in case of emergencies, and she'll need GPS maps and local transit apps to navigate the daily maze of subway changes. I actually wanted to pause here because I forgot to say this earlier, but she allowed her middle school age kid to walk around her neighborhood alone, which I find really surprising because I talked about in a previous video about how parents are getting arrested for letting their kids go out on their own or go to the park on their own or something like that. Basically, for letting their kids run free the way that Gen X and the early millennials were made to do or allowed to do, or actually told not to come back until the streetlights came on. Just wanted to throw that out there. I'm actually surprised that she hasn't been arrested for that yet, like the mom in Tennessee or the 24-year-old dad had at the who has kids stay at the McDonald's, which that's a topic for another day. Okay, I'm just going to start from this paragraph. I know she will get a phone eventually and likely soon. She isn't waiting until high school, like some experts recommend. It isn't practical, since she will likely be taking public transportation on her own soon. I'll want to be more readily available in case of emergencies, and she'll need GPS maps and local transit apps to navigate the daily maze of subway changes. And yet, I'm clinging to her phone free days like a baby holds a mother. I know that once she gets a phone, there is no going back. 11 is peak kid. Priya will still let me hold her hand when we cross the street, even though I know she does this alone all the time. She'll cuddle with me when we watch Ugly Betty, a silly and retro show that she loves as much as I do. What's that? She asks about the corded phone in Betty's house. Yeah, most younger Zoomers and Gen Alpha, they are going to be genuinely shocked by corded phones. I mean, I remember growing up, we used to have a corded phone in our kitchen. It's not there anymore, but it was there. Though I remember for the most part, we had the wireless landline phones, the ones that have to be charged in the base, but they can be taken out to move around freely while calling, which is actually what most landline phones are these days. Corded ones are kind of a novelty, but I digress. Priya will still go on neighborhood bike rides with me and humor me with tennis games, which she usually wins. Side note, I really hope she is winning those honestly and that the mom's not just letting her win. My mom never let me and my siblings and my cousin win at anything. We had to earn those wins, like with board games and such. I actually thought about it quite a bit when I brought my Nintendo Switch to a family party, and I was beaten in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate by an 8-year-old, but he won fair and square, so credit where credit's due. And I will brag to the adults. I learned this habit from my mom. She never let me win. He won fair and square. It was a good game. You know, I should remember to do a separate video parents who parents who do let their kids win without letting them actually earn it. She will go hiking with me, a pandemic pastime, even though I know she'd prefer to be eating acai bowls with her peers or perusing the aisles of Five Below for cheap trinkets. She doesn't act embarrassed when I'm around her friends. Sure, there's plenty of eye rolling and side eye and bouts of tween two to contend with, but she will never say no to a game of Settlers or Catan or Monopoly with us. Without a smartphone, Priya thinks she is missing out. Why wouldn't she? All around her, everyone is glued to their screens. That includes her friends on the school bus, on play dates, and even at parties. When we escorted her and more than a dozen friends to a karaoke room for her 11th birthday, almost everyone was fixated on their phones on the subway ride home. Yeah, don't let peer pressure get to you. If you genuinely don't want Priya to have a smartphone, just don't get one. Get her a dumb phone like I had to have until I was, what was it, 19. The only reason I eventually got an iPhone was because of Pokemon Go, which now I'm feeling like I should re download that and start over, start fresh with that. I honestly kind of want to do that now just because I'm realizing it actually motivated me to go out and I can just choose not to have it running on my phone while I'm walking everywhere. I can make pit stops and I can just take it out for a quick Pokestop spin, but otherwise just leave it in my pocket. And I still have my Pokemon Go Plus, so I should probably let that do all the heavy lifting, but I digress. The mysteriously magnetic power of smartphones greets Priya at home, too. God knows how many hours a day her father plays Cube Block. I exchange alarming news stories, silly memes, and gossip with friends on 3 different threads all evening. As for our teenage son, we could throw fireworks in our apartment and he may not notice if he's on TikTok. Priya argues that by not having a smartphone, she's left out of social plans. Not true. I explain that her iPad works just fine for plan making. She complains that she can't text me. No problem. Now that nearly all of her friends have phones, she can just use one of them that to reach me. She points out that her older brother got one in 6th grade, so it's only fair that she get one too. There, she has me. 1 point for her. Have you heard of this thing called learning from your mistakes? If you think that giving her older brother a smartphone at that age was a bad idea, or that you learned that it was a bad idea, maybe don't let precedent do that. Yeah, that's actually one of the things about the judicial system that kind of gets on my nerves that precedent is typically used, which I feel like if something is objectively broken, it should just be fixed or changed. Just because we used to do it all the time doesn't mean we have to right now. I've tried to explain how phones with all their social media apps and games are designed to be addictive. Just look at us. I note that they can also be dangerous, a point underscored by the Netflix series Adolescence, which we recently watched together. She says she is willing to put up with any restrictions we deem wise. She knows that means no social media apps or phone use after certain hours, and she is fine with that. This is a kid, after all, who wrote an op-ed making the case against Roblox, an online game, in her student newspaper in 4th grade. While we drag our feet, Priya has begun looking up deals on refurbished smartphones online. She knows her phoneless days are numbered. She is already talking about how a phone will help her travel on her own in Manhattan for her weekly chorus practice, a ride we often pass playing Wordle together on my phone. She's already talking about just how great it will be to make plans with friends while she is already out and about in the world, which naturally means less time for Ugly Betty and Settlers of Catan with me. Can you blame me for trying to postpone for as long as possible the day she swaps my hand for a smartphone? She's so ready for this next step. Soon, one day, but not just yet. I will be too. I mean, again, if you saw the problems with what happened when you gave your older son that first smartphone and realized it was a mistake, maybe wait until maybe this is your lesson to wait until she's an adult, but I also get it. Smartphones are a very important tool out in the you're out and about today. I actually watched this 46-minute video from, let me pull up the name of it. It was called I Hated My Phone, so I got rid of it. Hold on, I just need to pull up the name. I Hate My Phone, so I got rid of it by Eddie Burback. Here, let me show you what the thumbnail. I don't think I'm going to go through and watch it here because it's over 46 minutes long, but to sum it up, he made a good point about how it's possible to function without a smartphone. It's just a lot more difficult. And I can understand having the location sharing as a tool, but just that. And it should be something that your kid is okay with. I mean, you can always make that a condition where if she wants a smartphone, she has to share her location. And again, not as a stalking measure, just a safety precaution, you know? What else from that video? Oh, yeah. Eddie Burback proved you don't need a smartphone to get movie tickets. I mean, when I worked at a movie theater, a lot of older people and even some 30 something year old parents with early elementary school age children still printed out the QR code from the email. You know, I'm actually thinking about printing out a copy of the QR code for from the email for my reservation for The Martian at the Mugar Omni Theater. But I think I've gone on long enough about this. Comment down below your thoughts on what age is appropriate for children to be given a smartphone of their own. Or if you're like me and you think they should have to wait until their 18th birthday to get a smartphone, because at that point, they're an adult, they can waste their time on it. They can waste their time on the smartphone with all the extra features that you don't necessarily need all you want. And until then, you just have to make do with a dumb phone. And I'm not just saying this because I had to wait until I was 19 to get a smartphone after having a dumb phone for so long. Okay, I had an iPod Touch. But I guess iPads or an iPad mini, which could possibly fit in a pocket, would be a suitable replacement for some of the other things. But you comment down below your thoughts on this. I've made my point. I only think adults should have smartphones. But if parents are okay with giving their children smartphones at a certain age, I can't argue that. That's their choice. I disagree with it, but I respect their decision. I mean, it's not the worst thing they could do. Or who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. And like the electronic junk, as Aaron Clary says about modern cars, it's actually quite a useful tool, and their brains will evolve so that they adapt to it better than older Zoomers, Millennials, and Gen Xers ever could. I don't know, you let me know in the comments down below, give this video a like, subscribe for daily videos, and I will see you soon.